The 60s were a time of change. The paradigm in government that has been oppressing others is dismantled piece by piece. This was done because of the Civil Rights Movement, which set a precedent for equality for years to come. This was the most important civil rights legislation since the Reconstruction. It made it illegal to discriminate or segregate a public place based on race, sex, religion, or country of origin. This plan by John F. Kennedy was finally put into effect by his Vice President, Lyndon B. Johnson. This act thoroughly eradicated the racial barriers at voting booths. Before this act was signed by LBJ, blacks found voting difficult in some areas due to obstacles such as literary tests that prevented black people from voting. The polling tax had an implicit bias on not only blacks but the poor as well. This amendment denied any form of government the ability to bar a U.S. citizen from voting due to failure to pay state polling taxes. The marriage between a white male and a black woman in the state of Virginia broke the state's anti-miscegenation statute, which made interracial marriages an offense punishable by 1 year in state prison. This case was brought before the Supreme Court, who deemed this statute as unconstitutional, therefore overruling the previous decision in Pace v. Alabama, which ruled in favor of anti-miscegenation. The decision is now celebrated nationwide on June 12th during Loving Day. This former chief counselor for the NAACP was most notably known for his victory in the Brown v. Board case. However, he was later appointed to the U.S. Court of Appeals by JFK in 1961, though Southern senators denied the appeal. In 1967, however, Marshall was placed on the High Court by LBJ. After his long waiting period, though, Judge Marshall went on to serve for another 24 years, challenging discrimination wherever it reared its ugly head. Often called the Fair Housing Act because, as its name says, it provides equal housing opportunities for everyone regardless of race, gender, country of origin, or religion. This made it a federal offense to do anything physically or potentially physically harmful to anyone based on any of the previously stated social differences. Affirmative action was put in place in order to make government jobs more available to those who belong to minority that has been historically oppressed. This is done by either quota or discriminating between those of oppressed heritage and those who have a heritage of oppressing. This was put in place by JFK in 1961 in order to ensure fairness among possible applicants. The Supreme Court ruled that while the affirmative action taking place in accepting more minorities was constitutional, the use of racial quotas to fill a certain number of seats with minorities was not. In 2003, the Supreme Court ruled the University of Michigan's use of affirmative action giving minority applicants a 14% advantage over other applicants. In cases like Chute versus Coalition, affirmative action has been challenged. The true question is whether or not it causes majority applicants to be disregarded based on things like their sex, skin color, or religion. Civil rights were attained through strain and struggle, but their effect had allowed for peace and equality to prevail.